Hi, I'm Ana Villalobos with Healthy and Aware, and I want to thank you for being interested in this video and listening to this video, and for taking the time to spend even just 10 or 15 minutes every day on your health and wellness. And I want to applaud you because there are a lot of people that would prefer to live in ignorance. Hey, you know what? I was one of those people. I wanted to live in the world where I got to eat my Oreo cookies and drink my Dr. Peppers and just live in ignorance, in blissful ignorance. But let me tell you, there is a price to pay for that, and it is a hefty price. And I'm here to share with you some of the concepts that I've learned. And the moment that you decide in your life that you are ready to make some serious changes in your life and really learn the concepts behind eating healthy and living a healthier lifestyle will be absolutely the best day of your life, I promise you. And it will be the wisest decision you could make. So you've taken the very first step, and I just want to congratulate you for that. I'm so excited for you. And I'm happy, so happy to share all of the knowledge that I've gained and part of my journey. And if you want to learn more about my journey, you're welcome to go to my website. For now, today I want to talk with you a little bit about eating living foods and what that means for your body. Our bodies are made up of these tiny little balls, and these balls are called cells. Now, I looked at the word cells in the dictionary, and the definition is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. So think about that, the structural and functional unit. That's a very, very important concept when it comes to thinking about our bodies. So our bodies are made up of these tiny little balls that create the structure and function of our bodies. So naturally, it would be very, very important that we do everything that we can to support these tiny little cells, these tiny little balls that are rolling around in our bodies, making up our tissues and our organs and our blood. Because if we don't support those, then the bigger picture of what we're creating ends up being a mess. Even though the design of the cell seems very simple, and it does. I mean, when you hear about it in school, what is it? It's a cell wall with some goo inside and a little nucleus, right? That's what we're told. And even though it seems really simple, it actually is very complex because these cells work together and they actually form our organs and our tissues and our blood, which is what we are. It's what creates this physical body that we live in and that we move around in and use in this world as we exercise, as we function throughout the day, as we think and as we exist. And so even though it seems very simple structure, my goodness, it makes up the whole picture of who we are and what we do. Okay, so let's think about that for just a minute. If we have these little tiny cells that are making up our body and making up our organs and our tissue and our blood, and they need certain nutrients in order to function properly, and we're not giving that to them, then that creates a big issue. We are bombarded constantly with illness and potential decay. Constantly, all day, every day. And so our cells are constantly in a state of fighting off and taking care of and getting rid of anything that's going to bring with it illness and decay. Our bodies are actually really incredible machines. I mean, they're able to detect when there is something that is potentially bad for our bodies and start fighting it. And actually, believe it or not, there are probably a lot more times in a day that we're actually putting into our bodies things that will cause decay and illness than we realize. So it may not even just be a germ that you pick up off of a stairwell or in an elevator. It may be something that you actually ingest on purpose. You may decide to eat whatever it is that's going to cause the illness or decay, or drink whatever it is, or breathe it in even. We have it happen all day, every day, sometimes on purpose, sometimes on accident. And so our bodies are these incredible machines, and they can detect when something is going to throw our bodies off off base, and they can absolutely go and start fighting and protecting and changing that atmosphere inside of your body. And cells are the area where that happens. Now, don't get me wrong. Some dead foods, supposed dead foods, will absolutely give you some nutrition. So, for example, if you think about a piece of chicken that's been cooked, obviously that's a dead food. It's no longer a living chicken, but you cook it up and you eat it, and it actually will give you some very valuable nutrition. It gives you protein and some amino acids that will help your body function properly and help your brain function properly. However, you compare that piece of chicken to a box of Cheez-Its. So let's see, you eat a piece of chicken, a beautiful piece of chicken, versus you eat an entire box of Cheez-Its. I promise you, you are not going to be getting the nutrition, the level of nutrition that your cells need in order to behave properly and function optimally, as you will if you're eating that bag of that box of Cheez-Its. You can eat the whole box. It won't matter. You're not going to give your cells what they need because they don't have in them the nutrients that your body needs. So when I talk about dead foods, what I mean is minimally processed foods. So you want foods that are living. I mean, obviously kale, if you get a bunch of kale, it's no longer alive because it's not on the stalk anymore, but it is and was a living food, and it's not been processed. It's not been pulverized. It's not been meshed and squished and cooked and, brought to a point where you can't even tell what it is anymore. So you want to focus on foods that are whole foods, that are as close to nature as possible. When I first started learning about this concept about eating living foods to support your body versus processed foods, I came up with this visual, and it just came to me in a moment as I was reading about this concept. And the idea was just thinking about cells and cell structure. And I was imagining in my head, in a big visual, I thought about, what does a cell look like? It has the cell wall, and it has all these little things inside of it, and it has the nucleus, and it has the goop in the middle of it. And I imagined this big, beautiful cell, and I made it really big in my mind. I made it huge. And I imagined it with different colors. You know how in high school where we color the cell as we're learning more about them. And I imagined it with all these different colors in it, and just being this beautiful creature that was just moving and, was existing in existence and kind of breathing in a way. And so I imagined the cell, and then I imagined presenting to the cell a bouquet of broccoli and kale and maybe some cabbage and some lettuce and some fresh tomatoes and some squash and some really beautiful colors and some fresh foods. And I imagined doing that, and I imagined that cell kind of being able to ingest that, like take that in and, in its movement, be able to take that in and ingest it. And then I imagined that cell getting brighter and bigger and more beautiful and more radiant. And then I went to the opposite extreme, and I thought, okay, well, I wonder what would happen if I offered that cell a big bowl of chili con queso. I love chili con queso. I don't know if you're watching this and you're not from the South, then let me tell you, we have chili con queso down here in Texas, and it's a big bowl of cheese, and it's so good with corn chips, and some places put chili in it, and some put meat in it, and some it's just the queso with some jalapenos. But let me tell you, it is good stuff. It is tasty, and I love it, and I still eat it sometimes. I just don't eat it very often anymore, but I still do enjoy it sometimes. But I imagined presenting that cell, that big, beautiful, brightly colored cell, with this glop of cheese. And I imagined pouring this cheese over the top of that cell and how it might respond. And all I could think of was just, I cannot imagine that cell being able to pull the energy from that big bowl of gloppy queso and actually have vitality and energy. I imagined it just, being kind of stuck and maybe glued a little bit and not being able to function very well and not having any energy and really not being able to extract much energy from that cheese. Now, it could probably extract some energy from that cheese and do really well. I mean, do okay, but not really well and not to its optimum supreme level. And there's a big difference between a cell that functions on that level versus one that functions with the broccoli and Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. That's a good one. In his book, Eat to Live, Joel Fuhrman talks about cruciferous vegetables, which are vegetables like cabbage and broccoli. And they have an element in them called, and I'm going to have to read this, called isothiocyanates, which detoxify carcinogens. And carcinogens are any element that can potentially create or cause cancer. And so think about that. That's really incredible. Those vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, have the capacity to get inside your cell and sweep out the carcinogens. Wow, that is huge. I mean, talk about being a help versus a hindrance. I mean, think about that. Think about the difference between eating a food that sweeps the bad stuff out of your cell versus eating a food that creates unhealthiness inside of the cell. A good example, I mean, let's go back to the queso or the Cheez-Its even, or any kind of processed food is probably going to be full of, well, not probably, it is full of sugar and fat. And those sugars and fats will actually cause the cell to swell. It will actually push sugars into the cell, which will then cause it to swell up. And just think about that. I mean, think about yourself when you're all swollen. I mean, gosh, even think about my dog and his foot. When his foot was swollen, he couldn't get up and walk around. He couldn't stand on that foot because it was swollen and it was painful. And that's the exact same situation that you're putting your body, each one of the cells in your body, into. So every time that you eat a processed food, you're actually causing that cell to swell up and get swollen and be incapable of functioning at the level that it's supposed to function at. And this, of course, is a huge detriment to your body. I mean, every time I was drinking Dr. Pepper, I was actually creating inflammation in my body, which was then making it more difficult for my spinal cord to work properly, for my legs to work properly, and then don't even get into the hormones and all of the other pieces of our bodies that need to work based on proper cellular function. I'm going to read one more thing to you that Joel Fuhrman said, and I wanted to tell you this because it's pretty intense. He says, hardly a day goes by when a new study doesn't proclaim the health-giving properties of fruits, vegetables, and beans. Unprocessed plant foods contain thousands of compounds, most of which have yet to be discovered, that are essential for maintaining health and for maximizing genetic potential. Now, I want to talk about that last little phrase because it sounds like a small phrase, but it really isn't. Maximizing genetic potential. That's huge. We are making life much more difficult for the generation beyond us. We have lived and eaten these processed foods on such a level that we are actually genetically changing what is happening to not only our bodies, but what's happening to our children's bodies, to the offspring that we have. So we've eaten these foods that have not allowed our bodies to function at the highest optimal level because they're not natural and they're not what you find in nature. And we have actually changed the DNA structure of the next generation. And if you look around, you actually will see on a very high level children that are getting sick and whose bodies are not functioning at a high level at all. And it's really sad. It's really sad when you look around and start realizing that little children's bodies are functioning at the level that a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old today. So what we've done is we've changed genetically what's happening to the next generation, and that's huge. That's huge. If that doesn't make you want to change what you eat, then I don't know what will. But that's a huge factor, and it's so important to remember that. Next time you're biting into a bite of food, I hope that you'll think about this video, and I hope that you'll think about me, and I hope that you'll think about everything that I talked about on this video and the importance and value of eating living, healthy food for a living, healthy, lively body and mind. And, I like to take steps. When I made my change, I made it all at once, and I just did it. I made this gigantic switch in my life, and it was huge, and it was a struggle. It was not easy to do. And I've learned that there are actually better ways to do it. And I want to encourage you to, at the best, have your food that you eat be 90% fresh fruits and vegetables, living foods, and 10% maybe processed. But if you feel like you can't do that and you're just at a place where you're eating almost all processed foods, that's okay too. We can work with that. Just start with 10%. Just maybe every time you pick up a cracker, put something alive on it. Maybe put a cucumber on it, something that's living on that cracker. And you can even add a piece of cheese if you want to. But take a step towards changing and shifting. And all you have to do is take a step. And every week you take another step and another step. You just do a little bit at a time. And before you know it, it's going to be really, really easy, because what will happen is your body will actually enjoy so much and appreciate so much what you're doing that you'll start to feel the difference, and you'll start to feel more energetic and more healthy. And then your body will actually start calling for that kind of food. And you won't even have to make that decision in your head anymore. That's a decision that your body will make for you. And I want to encourage you. So even just 10%. So if you eat all processed food, just 10%, just add one more thing in there that is living and whole. And if you're already at 10%, go to 20%. If you're at 20%, go to 30%. Take it up a notch. And I encourage you to do that. Your body will absolutely thank you. And you will be doing what is right for yourself and what is right for the generations to come, because you're setting an example for other people. If you've already had your children, or you're beyond that age of life, that's okay too. You're still setting an example for the next generation. And you're helping them to make the right choices as well. So I encourage you to move forward on that. We're actually in the next video going to be talking about listening to your body. So I just was talking about your body asking for those foods. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in the next video. So join me tomorrow for the next video. And so proud of you again. I'm so excited for you. And I hope that all of this really helps you and makes a difference in your life. It's made a huge difference in mine. So grateful that I did it, and I will never turn back. And I want you to be empowered through health and awareness.